Our Lawn Care back with another video, and today I wanted to switch it up for you guys. So today I'm going to be giving you guys the top 10 tallest grass cutting videos on YouTube. Also, links to all of the content below in the description, so if you wanted to watch it, go down there. And before we get into the video, give this video a like. Yeah. Look at that lizard go.
You know how magnificent your speed have to be for that? That you don't even know that about fighting, do you? That didn't even come to your mind to make two punches sound like one. The ultimate knockout puncher.
The ultimate knockout punch. Don't get hit by that. Don't get hit by that.
Listen, I'm a fucking student of war. I know all the warriors from Charlemagne, Achilles, the #1 warrior of all warriors. From there, Alexander, Napoleon, I know them all. I read them all, I studied them all. I know the art of fight, I know the art of war. That's all I ever studied. That's why I'm so feared. That's why they feared me when I was in the ring. Because I was an annihilator. That's all I was born for. And now those days are gone. It's empty. I'm nothing. I'm working on being the art of humbleness. Can you believe in me? That's the reason why I'm crying, because I'm not that person no more. And I miss them. Because sometimes I feel like a bitch. Because I don't want that person to come out, because if he comes out, hell is coming with him. And it's not funny at all. It must sound cool, like I'm a tough guy. It's just, I hate that guy. I'm scared of him.
That's it's like my life itself. I look back. Do I have any regrets? I'm asked that question all the time. Do I have any regrets? And I do in a sense, but then again, I'm saying I wouldn't be who I am today if those things didn't occur, those things didn't happen to me. I become a better father, a better husband, a better friend. Life, that's the old thing, life is what you make it. That is so true. Life is indeed what you make it. And when you give it all of yourself.
It's beautiful. He brings out this in me. I'm sorry.
But it's all about what's inside of you, how you feel. You know?
Yeah. And that's why I live the life that I live now. Because you knew me 20 years ago. You knew me 20 years ago. And that guy's kind of dead now. You know, but that wasn't easy. You know, that guy didn't want to leave. He wasn't leaving easy. He fought, screamed and cried and scratched all the way till he died, you know? And I'm very grateful. That's why I'm really surprised you're here, you know? And it can't be only me you did this to. It can't be only me that you can give people those kind of inspiration. I can do this shit. He come from where I come from. He come from a bad neighborhood too. He saw people get killed. He know people died. He can make it. I can make it. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mike, yes.
I never told you that. I knew you for all the time. I never told you that.
Now you got the chance, brother.
My ego wouldn't let me tell him that. My ego wouldn't let him tell him somebody was greater than me. My ego won't let me tell you that.
Your ego. And, we all have one. Some worse than others. But until you're able to be able to live with yourself, within yourself. And when you start to care for others, again, when people see me, or I put it this way, when my little kids, when they were little, I should say, when they were little, they saw boxing films of me, videos of me and everything, and they call me Papa. So they look at me fighting, and then they look at me and say, that's not the same guy. Because I was so ferocious and I was so determined in that ring, but outside the ring, I am who I am. I'm not aggressive. I'm non-confrontational. Unless you mess with my family. My kids, you try to make your kids stronger and better and this and that, but they have to walk their own plank. They have to walk their own road.
Yeah.
So being a father is a beautiful thing.
Absolutely.
Being a father to me was the big challenge. Is a challenge. a challenge and stuff. I look at my son, sometimes I see myself. I see the me I don't like. I want to kill it. Because I don't want to do to my son what he did to me. But maybe he handled it better than I do. I doubt it, but maybe he does. Who am I? I'm not God.
Yeah,
So tell me,
baby.
Snoop, let's just get, how do those years feel, man? You lived through that era.
You know what, Mike? To survive that era, I look back at it because I know how deadly it was and how life-threatening it was. And I just thank God that I had the precision to believe in him, to let him, guide me and put me on the path that I needed to be on. Because I could have been reckless and I could have been young and foolish at one point in time. I was, but I chose to believe in the fact that I'm going to let God lead me and I'm going to follow his direction as opposed to me trying to lead, because I'm bad at leading. So once I started letting him take control of me and lead me, certain things started to happen and things would, show me better vision on how I needed to move and how I needed to react to things. And I'm still here because that's the plan I've been going with. And I think that's a tribute to who I am by keeping God in everything I do.
Yeah, I believe that as well.
That's amazing.
I attribute my grandmother and my mother and, the people in my life who, put this on me at an early age to give me understanding and have me aware and to know that there's a difference between good and bad and right and wrong. And there's a purpose of why we do what we do. And once I understood that purpose, I tried to practice that by being a better person and just trying to be a better me and being a reflection of what I'm supposed to be. And it just becomes a part of me now to where it's just every day I wake up to it. It's not a routine, it's not an act, it's just me being me. And I've learned to love more than hate. And that's the overall thing of it all, just to try to learn to love more, because it's easy to hate, but it's hard to love.
Yeah.
I don't know. I never really, my life, I never really believed in God. My life, I had to learn to believe in God late in life.
Right.
God was always a game. Playing the game, get something I want. It's just the world I came from. Everything was a game. Everything was about the means of getting something. Nothing was real. And doing the toad, really took me to another expectation of God. My whole experience about God has always been what someone told you what God was, and what the book told you what God was. And there's always somebody
Third party.
Yeah, it's always third party. There's always somebody debating. Somebody, maybe a Muslim author, he wants to debate the Bible, or somebody wants to debate the Jewish
Quran
book, the Quran, or whatever. There's always conflict in religion. Religion is conflict, wars, and hatefulness and fightfulness. And it's only love among themselves. And you only get love from religion unless you follow our religion. You receive our love.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And it's just for us only.
Up until this day, that's what it's been.
Right. Speak on it.
Okay, up until this day, that's what it's been.
Speak on it.
And so I did this toad the other day, yesterday, matter of fact. And, explain what the toad is to some people that don't understand what the toad is.
Yeah, because it sounds like you told on somebody. I'm like, I hope you ain't told on nobody, Mike.
Not intentionally.
The
Toad or toad? Which one is it?
The truth shall be told.
Explain it then.
The toad, it's a mystical creature from the Sonoran Desert. It hibernates for 10 months of the year, and it comes out during the monsoons, and they get this toad and they milk it, for lack of a better term, of its venom. And its venom contains this molecule called 5-MeO-DMT. And so when you take 5-MeO-DMT, you vaporize it. It basically takes you through your life and shows you your traumas and releases you from it, and you have to surrender. And it releases you from your pain. So that's a little bit about what the toad is.
That shit sound crazy as
No,
fuck.
but yeah,
Nigga, I ain't never smoking that shit.
No, but dig, right? On another note.
Only way I'm smoking that shit if they like, dog, you gonna die in about 4 hours, cuz. All right, hey, cuz, call Mike up.
Give me the
And
toad.
it might give you life.
Get that toad, cuz. I want to experience it. Hit that motherfucker 4 times in an hour. Like, cuz, that motherfucking
dude.
toad was amazing.
In order to find your way through all of that, you need to develop a relationship with something that's profound. And you have that capacity. And what could be more profound than the truth? And what would you rather have on your side? And to do more than your best, because your best isn't enough, because your best isn't as good as you could be. You have to push yourself past that. And that's, as far as I can tell, where you find what you need in life. You find the meaning that sustains you in life, and you find the patterns of action that redeem the world. Nietzsche said that you could tell much about a man's character by how much truth he could tolerate, which is very interesting. You know, there's an idea in the great Western tradition that the truth is the way and the path of life, and that no one comes to the Father except through the truth. And I believe that to be the case, because I don't think that you can manifest who you are without the truth. And so I think it's literally and metaphorically true that the pathway to who you could be if you were completely who you were is through the truth. And so the truth does set you free, but the problem is that it destroys everything that isn't worthy in you as it sets you free, and that's a process of burning. And it's painful, because you cling to what you shouldn't be, partly out of pride and partly out of ignorance and partly out of laziness. And so then you encounter something true, and you all know this perfectly well, because when was the last time that you learned something important that wasn't a blow of some sort, you know? And it's often you look back at your life and you think, oh God, I really learned something there. I wouldn't want to do that again, but it really changed my life. I mean, sometimes it can really destroy you, you know, an encounter with the truth, and you never really recover. But now and then something comes along and straightens you out, and a lot of you has to go. A lot of you has to burn away, you know, and I suppose in some sense the idea is that everything about you that isn't worthy is to be put into the flames. And that's another reason to be not so casual about claiming what you believe, because it isn't something that you undertake without due caution. You know, I learned when I was a kid, about 25 or so, a little older than a kid, that almost everything that I said was one form of lie or another. And I wasn't any worse, I would say, than the people that I was associating with, or any better. And the lies were manifold, you know. They were attempts to win arguments for the sake of winning the argument. That might be one. Attempts to indicate my intellectual prowess when there were competitions of that sort. Maybe just the sheer pleasure of engaging in an intellectual argument and winning. My inability to distinguish between ideas that I had read and incorporated because I had read, but hadn't realized that I hadn't yet earned the right to use, all of that. And, you know, I had this experience that lasted a long time. Well, I would say it's really never gone away. And I think this was the awakening of my conscience, essentially. This voice, for lack of a better word, made itself manifest inside me, and it said every time I said something that wasn't true, and that's usually what it said. That's not true. You don't believe that. Or there was a sensation that was associated with it. I don't think this is that uncommon, you know. I asked my psychology classes for many years in a row if they had an experience, that they had a voice in their head, let's say, it's a metaphor, or a feeling that communicated to them when they were about to do something wrong. And it was universally the case that people agreed with one of those statements or another. And the other thing I would ask is, well, do you always listen to it? And of course the answer to that was definitely no. Well, you know, I learned that so much of what I was doing was false. And I think I learned this. See, there was a reason that this came to me so clearly. I was trying to understand why people did terrible things. And I was really concentrating on the terrible, terrible things that people do. And I was interested in Auschwitz, for example, and not as a political phenomenon, But as a psychological phenomena, I was curious about how you could be an Auschwitz guard. And I wasn't really curious about how you could be one, because, well, you could be one, that, of course. I was more curious about how I could be one, being such a good person as I thought I was. But I also knew that many people did many terrible things during the 20th century, and the idea that I was somehow better than them, or that I should assume a priori that I was better than them, and that I wouldn't have made the same choices or worse had I been in the same situation, was a very, very, very dangerous supposition. And that we really needed to understand why it happened, and that perhaps we could go deep enough in that understanding, which is, I think, what happens when you go deep into understanding, so that you could stop it. Because if you understand a problem, maybe you can solve it. And at least in part, I came to believe that the problem was, as Solzhenitsyn said, that the problem is that the line between good and evil runs down every human heart. And I was reading Jung at the same time, and he believed that the human soul was a tree whose roots grew all the way to hell, and believed also that in the full investigation of the shadow, which was the dark side of the human psyche, was that it was bottomless, essentially, that it was like an experience of hell. And that also struck me as true. And that the way to stop those sorts of things from happening was to stop yourself from being the sort of person who would do it, who would even start to do it. Because the other thing you learn when you learn about atrocities of that sort, for me it was a matter of understanding that the way to stop such things from happening, the way to remember properly, is to understand that you could do it, that you could do those terrible things, because the people who did them were like